When you think of King Solomon, what comes to mind? Anything? Bobby, you might have an answer.
The 2 women and the baby.
Oh, the 2 women and the baby, yep. Anybody else? There's a couple. I talked about wisdom, right? Maybe the, sorry? Building the temple, exactly. Choices, yes. So we have a few things, and it's usually things that are written up about Solomon in the history books. That he may have written the Proverbs, that he built the temple, that he had great wisdom, so wise that he was able to solve a dispute between 2 women who claimed that the child between them was theirs. But it turns out that Solomon is most definitely his father's son. Recall how David got to a pretty low point in that Bathsheba-Uriah soap opera. And then redemption came to David when he confessed his sins and his flaws before God. David seemed to have learned his lesson, for he taught his son Solomon, obey God, walk in God's ways, and God will keep promises to you, and you will prosper. But then, like typical Middle Eastern sovereign, David charges Solomon with settling accounts with Joab and Shmuel, scoundrels in the story, and with Barzillai, a supporter of David. And all this comes right before our reading for today. The desire to love and serve the Lord, and the seeming inevitable use of power to serve one's purpose. They kind of are in tension here. So Solomon does seem to follow in David's footsteps, not the least of which included marrying foreign women, not just one, but more than one, and worshiping, as it was read, as Kathy read, in Gideon, which is one of the former high pagan places of worship. So Solomon, as we find him at this moment, is a man standing in need of prayer. So he prays to God. And we might hear echoes of David's confession here. Solomon stands before God and asks for the wisdom to lead the people you have chosen. He says that he is a child, surrounded by an innumerable swirl of citizens that are pressing in on him from all sides, asking for leadership and governance. They're asking for guidance. They're needing protection. In a way, Solomon is showing God his fear for what this large task holds for him. He demonstrates humility. And the Lord does see into Solomon's heart that he does indeed want to care for those he is to lead. So Solomon becomes the king that is written up in history books. And like all of us, he is flawed. He's famous for building the temple to Yahweh, yet in doing so, he used countless slaves to build it. He's believed to have written the Proverbs, very likely inspired by looking back at the end of his life. He united Israel, but he fought many wars to accomplish that. Solomon's story, as written in the Kings, is evidence of his intelligence and of his brokenness. It's a brokenness that he shares with all of us. He certainly has that rare quality of wisdom. For in praying for wisdom that day, it was obvious that he already had wisdom. And as Proverbs 9, verse 9 says, give instruction to the wise, and they will become wiser still. Teach the righteous, and they will gain in learning. All in all, this whole section of the Bible, Chronicles, Kings, Samuel, they're all a lesson in leadership. What to do, what not to do. It's something to keep in mind as we once again consider those who want to represent us in governmental leadership. Cameron Howard wrote, leadership, whether it is governmental, religious, or otherwise, requires us to hold in tension humility and confidence, finitude and limitless capacity, the gifts we have and the gifts we have yet to acquire. Solomon is by no means a perfect model for leadership, as his prayer reminds us. So that brings to my mind the one person who demonstrated the true leadership that God wanted. And he's the one that God ultimately sent. Jesus insisted that the kingdom he came in the name of was not of this world. It's a reminder that all human kingdoms and powers seem to go to any length to exercise power over others, whether it's political or economic or cultural. The kingdom Jesus speaks of is counterintuitive. It's a model of serving others, not demanding or taking. All of Jesus' life was living countercultural. From the time he was born, to the escape from Herod to Egypt, until his death at the hands of Pilate. You know, Jesus never engaged in any political action, yet the powers that be were threatened by him. Not because he sought to control what they controlled, but because he dared speak out against their claims to being the end-all, be-all, and end-all, their supreme claims to power. You remember that Roman coin that Jesus held up with the head of Caesar on it? And he said, "Give to Caesar what is due Caesar, and give to God what is due to God." It's a tough act to follow, Jesus is. So may we pray, like Solomon, to seek wisdom from God, so that we might live as Jesus lived, to love and serve the Lord, and the world will be a better place for it.